Welcome to The Explainer. You know, the way literally everything gets to you, from your phone to your food, is going through this massive reinvention. So today, we're going to unpack that huge shift in global supply chains as they move away from a kind of dirty, linear past and into a much smarter, circular, and more sustainable future. All right, let's just jump right in with a single number that really sets the stage for our entire discussion today. 7%. Yup, 7%. That's how much of all global greenhouse gas emissions come from just logistics and freight. And that number? Well, that's the big challenge. It's exactly why the whole system is being rebuilt from the ground up, thanks to pressure from all sides. You've got consumers demanding transparency, regulators enforcing new rules, and investors who now see sustainability as absolutely critical. So, to really get how this is all happening, we're going to treat this topic like a book, moving through 6 interconnected chapters that lay out the new rules of logistics. Okay, Chapter 1. This is all about the foundational blueprint. And let's be super clear here. This isn't just about going green. Nope. It's about designing a system that is, at its core, way more efficient, more resilient, and just plain more responsible. So you can think of these 5 things as the essential building blocks. But what's really revolutionary is how they all lock together, you know? Environmental goals like decarbonizing aren't treated as separate from economic goals like efficiency or social responsibilities like fair labor. It's all one big, cohesive strategy. It's a look at the whole picture of what a modern supply chain has to be. All right, we've got the blueprint. So for our next chapter, let's open it up and look at a core mechanic that makes it all work, making these supply chains circular. Now, this is so much bigger than just handling customer returns. This is about completely blowing up that old, wasteful take, make, and throw away model. We're talking about re-engineering the whole thing into a regenerative system where value is never really lost. It just gets recovered and put right back to work. These flows, right here, are basically the arteries of the circular economy. They let companies recapture all that value locked inside their products, which helps them slash their dependence on expensive raw materials and, at the end of the day, build a much more resilient and profitable business. Okay, let's turn the page to Chapter 3 and see how technology gives us the intelligence, kind of like a digital nervous system, that we need to manage all these complex flows, both forward and backward. This right here is one of the most powerful tools in the new logistics playbook. I mean, just imagine having a perfect, living, virtual copy of your entire supply chain. You could see what happens if a major port shuts down, or simulate a new delivery route to see if it saves fuel, or even predict that a critical machine is about to fail before it actually shuts down your operations. It's a game changer. And hey, this isn't just some cool theory. According to McKinsey, the results are real and they are huge. We're not talking about tiny little tweaks to logistics here. We're talking about major improvements to things like revenue and how fast you can get a product to market. It's really the ultimate proof that being sustainable and being a high-performance business are two sides of the very same coin. So, now that we have the mechanics of circularity and the digital tools in place, we can turn to Chapter 4 and really focus on the central problem they're designed to solve, that massive carbon footprint we talked about. What you're seeing here is a huge shift. The old way of doing things, using industry averages, that was basically just a good guess. The new way, with real-time data, is like switching from a blurry old paper map to a high-def live satellite feed. You just can't manage what you don't measure, and this level of precision is the absolute bedrock of any serious plan to cut carbon. So once you have that super accurate data, you can unleash all these powerful strategies. It becomes this multi-pronged attack on emissions from every single angle, from the fuel in the trucks to the power in the warehouses, all the way back to the materials a product is even made from. It's about hunting down and eliminating carbon at every step of the journey. But look, new technology and new processes inside just one company, well, that's not going to be enough. To really scale these solutions, you need a huge collaborative ecosystem, which brings us to Chapter 5. The World Economic Forum really hits the nail on the head here. No single player can do this alone. You can't just overcome these massive systemic barriers like patchwork regulations or huge infrastructure gaps all by yourself in a silo. Success depends entirely on this whole coordinated network, where governments write smart policies, finance provides the money for innovation, and industry actually makes the changes on the ground. All right, for our final chapter, let's see how all these ideas, the blueprint, the tech, the collaboration, actually come to life out in the real world of retail and manufacturing. First up, let's look at a big retailer that was dealing with a really common problem: rising emissions from all their last mile deliveries and just no real clarity on the carbon footprint of their shipping. So, what was their solution? They built that digital nervous system we talked about earlier. By putting in an AI-powered control tower, they suddenly had real-time visibility over their entire network. And that meant they could make smarter, instant decisions, balancing speed, cost, and carbon emissions on the fly. Okay, next up, a global manufacturer. Their goal was twofold. One, cut emissions, and two, at the same time, make their supply of critical materials more secure by building a truly circular supply chain. Their strategy was really interesting. Internally, they focused on closing that material loop, building out robust systems to harvest and remanufacture components. And then externally, they collaborated, partnering with NGOs to push these sustainable practices deep into their supplier ecosystem. This made sure the change wasn't just happening at their own company, but across their entire value chain. When you look at these cases together, a really clear pattern emerges. The path to a sustainable supply chain is built on precise measurement, total network digitization, deep collaboration, and a relentless focus on what's called Scope 3 emissions, basically the emissions that come from your entire supply chain, not just your own factories. And that's where the real impact lies. And that brings us to the final and most crucial thought. This transition we've just walked through, it isn't some far-off future idea. It is happening right now. For businesses, for all of us, and for the planet, the debate about if we should do this is over. The only question left is, how fast can we get it done?